Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to go through a little bit of the procedures so everybody knows how this works. My- Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, so the callers will be placed. Okay, now. All will be placed by me and the roll call is initiated by the planning administrative assistant. Once roll call is complete, callers will be placed on mute so as not to disturb the procedure. During the public meeting portion of the proceedings, the following procedure will be taken for the application being considered. I, as the mayor, will announce the application in order as listed on the agenda. Our senior planner, Jennifer Curran, will summarize the findings and give recommendations. The applications will be asked, the applicants will be asked if they wish to add any further information or comments. All participants will be unmuted for this portion of the proceeding. The public will be asked if they wish to make any comments on the application. In order to be recognized by the chair, please approach by stating who your worship and provide your name. I would like to make comments regarding this application. Once the chair is recognized, you will be able to speak. Please strive to refrain from speaking over someone else. Roll call is in order at 6:07. And we'll start off with territorial land acknowledgement. Before we are reading this underway, I would like to formally recognize the traditional leaders of this land, and specifically our neighbors of Alderwood First Nation, with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the Dutch Valley Public is located on the Mississauga Ashanuda territory and is the traditional territory of Mississauga Ashanuda. Township of Valley Public respectfully acknowledges that the Municipal nations that elected stewards and caretakers of whose lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility and ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. Item number three, exposure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. Mayor Johnson will just ask you if you want to take a comment. Mayor Johnson, tell us. Still in use. So, seeing none, that will be duly noticed. Approval of the agenda as circulated. Be resolved the March planning meeting minutes of reading agenda of Tuesday, March 28, 2023. Approve this. Mover and seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councilor. Councilor Booth. All in favor? The motion
Aye.
carries. Thank you. Next we have item 5, municipal planning meeting minutes of Thursday, February 23rd, 2023. Be it resolved that the municipal planning meeting minutes Thursday, February 3rd, 2023 be approved. I get a mover and seconder for that. Councilor Booth and Councilor Ainsworth. All in favor? Motion.
Aye.
Thank you. Delegations, tonight we have 2 delegations. The first one is going to be Rhonda Bateman. Rhonda is the CAO of the Lower Trent Conservation Authority, as regarding Bill 23. So Rhonda, welcome. Lisa, I don't know if you met before or not, but I don't think so, and it's nice to have you here.
Thank you, Mayor Logal. Yes, I've been with, and thank you, councillors, for inviting me. I have been at Lower Trent for almost 4 years. It'll be 4 years in May. So yes, I missed your last year. So yes, tonight I'm going to talk about Bill 23, the changes that have affected conservation authorities and our municipalities from our aspect, and upcoming agreements. So next slide, please. So as we all know, Bill 23 passed on November 28th. Some sections of Bill 23 affecting conservation authorities, the Conservation Authorities Act, were enacted on December 28th with an effective date of January 1st. So as we were all on holidays, it took effect and we were a little taken off guard. But so that first slide there is relevant to category 2 programs, which will apply. So we may provide municipal programs and services that are the responsibility of a municipality, but municipality opts to have the Conservation Authority to deliver that program for them. And that's been working well. We do have a memorandum of understanding for different programs with Alma Calderman, which I'll talk about in a minute. But so the important thing for today is that Lower Trent had planning agreements with Alma Calderman and all of our municipal partners, actually. So this exemption that's listed there under 1.1 is an authority shall not provide within its area of jurisdiction municipal program or services related to reviewing or commenting on a proposal, application, or other matters made under one of the prescribed acts. And the third slide has a list of the prescribed acts. So LTC did have the capacity to provide comments and recommendations to our municipalities under several of these acts, but primarily we focused on the Planning Act and the OWRA for stormwater management, which was also indicated in the Planning Act as well. So that takes away some of our work that we have normally delivered to your municipality. I'll talk about that in a minute, but there's another excuse me, program and services category there that is category 3, and it's on slide number 4, and it applies to those programs that are CA centered, that our board thinks are important to deliver to municipalities, and that may be a benefit to the municipality and will now require an agreement between our CAs and municipalities. The exemption on this one, it comments on those other acts that are listed on the previous slide. They would have had, those agreements would be agreed upon as well. However, under those acts now, so for an example, the larger CAs may be doing, they've developed a capacity to take on responsibility of extra programming to save costs, because the CA had expertise. So for example, things like evaluation, analysis, and reporting on species at risk, that's something that larger CAs did. We didn't do that particularly, but now that, or any other matters under the Endangered Species Act, that's been taken from the CA. So on slide 5, what are the consequences of Bill 23? As I said before, it was effective on January 1st. And we're not to review on or comment on planning proposals, applications, or anything associated with natural heritage matters. And that is a big component of what we used to do. So species at risk, the Oak Ridges Moraine, significant woodlands, wildlife, etc. So we do retain the responsibility to review and comment on planning matters as it relates to natural hazards or anything under our regulation 16306. So that includes wetlands.
Well, if I could, can I just ask you to find missing part?
Species at risk, I'm sorry. No, that's fine. The next slide, so the results of this are in it. We had received a lot of applications in December and we worked through those. Anything we received before January 1st, we continued to do our job as per we would until January 1st. So we completed all the applications we had received prior to January 1st. We've had multiple meetings with our municipalities and Jennifer's been on most of them. Everyone for Northumberland, for sure. We've developed an identification list, a checklist, a better way to say it, and distributed to all our municipalities regarding our list of services that we still provide. We've been working on realignment of operations for planning applications, and we're working with all of our municipal staff to ensure the transition is as smooth as possible. So in addition to this checklist of services that were delivered to the planning staff, we are developing an additional process chart and documentation to help our municipal partners. See at the bottom of the slide, our fees, all of our fees have been frozen for 2023. So the change in our planning operations was announced after we had set our fees for 2023. The unintended consequence of this minister's orders is that the public and developers are paying fees indicated for delivery of service that isn't completely available. But they're frozen and we can't do anything about that. So there are some other notable changes under Bill 23. One of them is the identification of Conservation Authority lands or portions of our lands that would be suitable for development. Those properties or portions thereof will be identified in our conservation land strategy that's due at the end of 2024. At first glance, most of our properties are floodplain related or hazard lands or wetlands, or have been the subject of restoration works, thereby limiting development. But we do have to do a thorough evaluation and provide those locations. One of the issues with that is we don't know what the parameters are around for the identification of those. We don't know if they're supposed to be within an urban service line, within or close to any kind of public infrastructure. We really don't know. So that's something we'll be asking the ministry about. So there's other aspects of Bill 23 to the Conservation Authorities Act that have not yet been enacted, and some include additional planning restrictions. So that, and we're hoping that never comes to fruition, honestly. The development regulations are and have been under review for the past, I say 5 years, it's been at least 7. We do anticipate the changes to our Section 28 regulations happening this year. And on the next slide, the programs and services inventory is there. We're modifying the early version that was sent to our municipal partners. So category 1, this was a result of an earlier bill, but all our programs and services are now listed as category 1, which are mandatory. Category 2, as I explained before, are municipally, the municipality is responsible for, but we have the capacity to deliver on your behalf if you so desire. And category 3 are wonderful, nice to haves, things that benefit everyone in the watershed. So under category 1, natural hazard, that includes everything from natural hazard planning, development regulations, permitting, enforcement, flood forecasting and warning, flood and erosion control structures, and all of those other issues there. Conservation management land, our provincial monitoring, source protection, and corporate services. In category 2, services that we deliver for Alderman currently are the risk management official and risk management inspector services and source protection education. The flood and erosion control infrastructure does not apply here. And under category 3, we're hoping that the Alderman will support our water quality monitoring, youth education, and stewardship programs. All of them are category 3 initiatives, all of which are relatively low cost. Currently within the levy, you are paying for the water quality monitoring and the stewardship. So the only new addition to that is youth education. And we're thinking about 0.5. Our youth education programs have always been self-sustaining. As a result of COVID and the financial position a lot of people find themselves in, our donation levels have gone down quite significantly. The program can run this year and possibly another year, but we don't want to lose it. So we're introducing it this year as a category 2. Part of the education will be covered under source protection, and 25% of the education does fall under category 1 under natural hazards education. So that's why we're saying it's a 0.5 of an FTE. So our programs and services inventory that this is based on is being updated. It's going to go to the board for acceptance 2 weeks. 2 weeks, I think our meeting is to address some changes that need to be made in it. I don't have the full cost determined for the programs that are there, but it's relatively it won't be significant because, as I say, you're already paying for some of them. So we're developing a memorandum of understanding for our category 2 and 3 programs, very similar to the ones we already have in place. We're just going to put them all together under one agreement, make everything easier for everyone. And we have just drafted that agreement, and it is currently with legal for review. And we're picking our legal is one that most of our municipalities use, so that they're looking at both sides of it actually, as opposed to just our side of it. So that'll be nice. Our intent, so the next steps in this is develop the finalization of the agreement, and then coming back to consult with municipal staff and council as to the agreements themselves and signing on. Yeah, and we'll have the financial part of it soon, this spring, for sure.
Okay,
Yep, I'm not going anywhere.
I'm going to ask for moving the secretary report by Council Ainsworth and second by Deputy Mayor Silver. Okay, now we can
Ask me.
Anything else? Don't start. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
To you, Mayor Local. Rhonda, do you expect you're working on a costing? Do you have any idea what number is available or that you're thinking about?
We're looking at trying to make the number. These agreements have to be in place by January 1st of 2024. So we're thinking of looking at what our potential increases could be on our current budget. And I just found out that the risk management official agreements that we have with our municipalities are about 8 or 9 years old. Well, I shouldn't say that. This one's still active. It doesn't expire till the end of the year, but the costs have not been increased in 8 or 9 years. So that one's gonna, just for staff increases over time, that one will go up a bit. But it's hard to estimate what it's going to be right now, and what we provide to you will be an estimate. And what we're planning on doing is tying those numbers annually to our levy increase, so that we have a steady increase, but usually our increases are quite low. So.
Thank you.
So,
Mhm.
We're signed up for the 2020 training.
Yes, the agreements have to be signed before then, so I'm hoping they'll all be signed in time for our budget, which starts, early in August really is when we start.
And I did hear you mention the water levels.
Oh, flood forecasting warning, yes,
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 exactly.
always. That's non-negotiable. Yeah, that's a category one. That's definitely, that's our reason for being actually.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
So at one of our last meetings, council had asked, the province gives you funding, the municipality gives you funding. Can you do an overview of how that funding works? Because they were a little bit confused on what the province pays for and what the municipality pays for.
The province pays a very small portion of our, we call it section 39. So that's flood forecasting and warning and flood and erosion control structures and that sort of thing. Since you were here, Mayor Logal, it has gone down 48%. It was cut in 2018. So they pay, don't quote me, it's either $64,000 or $68,000 a year, and that's all. That's what the province pays us for our mandatory services. We have other services they pay for, but it's usually project based. So our Bay of Quinte remedial action plan, they pay with the federal government for that, but our core mandate business has been cut in half by them. And Greg can back me up on that because you were on Ganaraska when it happened. It was shocking. So municipality pays most of our fees, absolutely.
Any further questions or comments? Well, thank you very much for coming.
Oh, that's fine. That's
I
fine.
do appreciate right now. Very much.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We had a delegation by Councilor Chris Pauls. Municipality of Port Hope. He's going to talk to us about traffic calming techniques. And actually, I seen his presentation a couple of weeks ago. And my father was letting go. We should invite Chris. Chris, thank you very much for coming to the Allen Cultures. And maybe I could start off by saying when he presented at the council, the county council, he was talking about village very close to the call and very close to Mass Fire and Hill. Which is a lot of things.
Yeah.
Small suburbs, so that's why
No, absolutely. Thank you very much, Your Worship, for having me, councillors, respected staff from Bonwick. Again, with that, my original presentation to county was because of, if you will, a little bit of selfishness, specifically to our area. As a lot of you may know, and I know His Worship does, we do have families still residing in this beautiful municipality as well. And we had when I say we, the family owned business at Golden Beach Resort, and we still have roots here with that. What I'm about to propose to you, and basically my intent here, my objective, is to relay some of the information I've gained throughout my years of experience, and it is important I'll relay that to you. It's just to pass on that knowledge because we are behind, and you'll see as I continue with this educational format, the United Kingdom is miles ahead of us, no pun intended, in regards to strategies and tactics without that. So a little quick background about myself. I do wear many hats. I have worn many hats, like many in this room. Yes, I am a representative for the municipality of Port Hope. But prior to that, and specific to this. I went through a number of ranks in a larger municipal, regional, Halton Regional Police. That was my professional career. And during that time, of course, you have the unfortunate duties and tasks, if you will, on investigating serious motor vehicle accidents where bodily harm and death has occurred. And I can't tell you how many I've lost, lose count over the years with the major highways of 403 QEW and the number of highways with that. With that, I continued into nuclear security. I became the operations manager. And more importantly now, I'm a full-time academic professor at a higher learning institution. Where that plays in is I am now knee deep in research. So this is research based. This is not my opinion. What I'm about to give you has been proven to be correct. And I just want to pass that on to you. So when we start to talk about traffic calming techniques, there is the general knowledge of what's called the 3 E's. The 3 E's, one of the first E is education. We hope to educate the public. Sometimes that's brochures, it's talks much like myself here. The second E is enforcement, of course, and usually that is through your police services. And in our case, in our area as well as yours, we have the Ontario Provincial Police. Without getting into too much detail, you would know as well as I do on the challenges with the Ontario Provincial Police in our area on regards to staffing issues. And I'll just leave it at that. I won't go into more knowledge with that. The third one, of course, is then engineering. And that's what I'm here to talk about today is the engineering techniques. So that's with the first slide. If you go to the second slide there, and you'll see a lot of people look at this, probably the county did originally, and it says the area of focus, but you misplaced the A. Chris, you don't know how to spell area. Well, I'm getting into now a little bit of human behavior and the science with that. We know a lot of what we do every day. We're kind of creatures of habit, if you will, and we start to condition ourselves. So if you still look at that first slide where it says the area of focus, you would notice the A is missing. But if I show you that slide over every day for 5-6 days, it becomes, it's the same slide. It's the area of focus. Yeah. So what we do, we sometimes miss those important factors. If we're seeing it every day, we condition ourselves and it becomes a moot point. I could ask every one of you right now, as you continue driving on your course of travels, what is the fourth sign you see? Well, I don't know, Chris, because it becomes oblivious. We've already conditioned ourselves with that. And so this will play in with where I'm going with this. So as you can see by your beautiful area here, Onwick, it is a large area. And what I'm going to be proposing to you is that we do have absolutely an effective measure that we can absolutely start to control speeds, particularly for those areas that there's some sensitivity and high risk. When I say high risk, we have those items in life that are called proximic pulls. The proximic pulls, of course, those areas of interest, fascination, curiosity, if you will, to take in, for instance, a school, and you'll see that here. School is a high populous area, especially there's nothing greater than our children, and that is what's called a proximic pull. There's high focus area there, there's high traffic, and at the end of the day, we can do statistical analysis. We can say, well, Chris, we only have 3 vehicles out of the 100 that speed. And that would be statistically correct. But all it takes is one of those vehicles, unfortunately, that goes out of control and will cause an accident. So statistics are great, except it's those odd percentages that we unfortunately have to respond to. The next slide, thank you. Now, the UK, and everybody has seen these, we've experienced these collectively. These are called what I call hard strategies. And these are actually engineering changes in the road structure. For instance, nuclear security, we have chicanes where you're driving and weaving through, and it absolutely mandates that you reduce your speed just through those engineering control mechanisms. And there's a variety of them on speed tables. And we've started here in Canada, if you will, the roundabouts, the most recent one we have on Highway 28, as you go north or south on 28 towards Peterborough or exiting Peterborough down towards Port Hope, you'll see the roundabout there. And that's absolutely to effectively calm traffic. And it does a very good job. I have seen the tracks, unfortunately, go straight over it. Somebody misjudged that, whether that was because of a contributing factor, perhaps, I don't know. But that's one of the major areas is hard strategies. Next slide, please. Then we start to get into what's called soft strategies. Now, soft strategies don't require as much engineering. And what it does, it looks and works on the psychological effect of the individual. So if you start to look at these, and you can zoom in if you wish to, I don't need to in this, but what it is, it's just very low cost effective means, if you will, on appearing to have changes to the driving structure of the roadway, where it says, oh my gosh, the roadway is changed, it's now gravel, or there's a pitfall. And it is nothing other than a subterfuge, trickery, if you will, of this is the conditioning that's changing. These are good. They're good once. And I'll tell you why they're good once. As a local resident, I'm going to go back to my first slide. The first time you encounter a soft strategy, you may slow down. But as you come to it in the second and third time, you already know what it is. So if you are inclined to speed, you're going to speed through it because it has no impact to you. So if you start to look at these strategies, you can absolutely say it's the hard strategies that have longevity. And it's not, the bastardized term, excuse my language, is photo radar. Photo radar, if you will, and I'll talk about that shortly and after the fact, it has a good effect, but it is small in scope in regards to the impact. And I'll talk a little bit about that. Next slide, please. So what we have found, and I've put one of the best ones up there, and this is the psychologically traffic from the UK. We have found that a combination of incorporating hard strategies with soft strategies has the desired effect. Next slide, please. So I'll talk about this one here, and excuse my little cartoon drawing. It's the best I could do under the circumstances. So I've just picked, and you'll probably recognize a couple areas within your municipality if focusing on the school. Now, when you start to look at that little, again, that's my drawing, my apologies for that. It's called a vertical shift. Now, this is probably one of the best values, if you will. It has low cost, relatively speaking, but high desirable outcomes. So what it is, everybody I'm sure in this room is familiar with speed humps, speed bumps. Now they become problematic though. They're very abrupt. Snow removal are sometimes challenged with it unless they have a floating blade, etc. So what the United Kingdom, and again, give credit where credit's due, they've experimented quite a bit with both all the hard and soft strategies. Quebec is a little ahead of Ontario as well. I have a report in there for you to look at. But what this is, the vertical shift is just a very simple, if you will, gradual incline up, no greater than 8 centimeters. It's very minimal. And then you're riding a plateau. And after approximately the plateau, and I can't tell you how long the plateau is because it's all going to be geographic specific to where you want the outcome. But I'm going to suggest to you, let's say for the sake of an example, it's approximately 20 meters, and then it's a gradual decline down. Now you put that in the natural. Now with that, you'll put in signage saying speed, almost like a speed hump ahead. People will automatically slow down. And then it's almost like a gradual roller coaster. Now, if you hit this, if you will, in an excessive speed, you will know you've encountered it. It's kind of upsetting, if you will. But if you maintain your speed, it's a gradual process. Now you wouldn't do just one. So for instance, I'll just use the school as an example. You would put at the peripherals, you're encountering a traffic calming area, speed humps or whatever, a vertical shift as it would be called. You'd advise people with that. The majority will slow down. You then encounter one. Then you have a gap, and then you have another one. Then you have a gap, and then you have the third, which is the exiting one. So through the combination of three, you have that engineering aspect of what is, as I refer to as hard, where you're also going to encompass their soft strategies such as line paintings to even accentuate what has occurred, i.e. the plateau, as I refer to it. You're going to highlight that in yellow to give that visual effect and clarity to where it is. And there is low cost with that. And that has had resounding effects in reducing in longevity, if you will, for the speed. You know, it's not dependent upon the local jurisdiction of the police, which is fabulous, low cost, and the impact and the risk is extremely low, especially for our plows, if you will, because of the gradual incline. Next slide, please. So if you start to look at your geographics, and it's all dependent, it's not a one-stop shop, if you will, but it's all going to be dependent upon where you're going, and you're going to have to do the analysis on truly on what area you want to control, and using a combination of this techniques. I am a big proponent personally of the vertical shifts. I have seen those in operation. Absolutely, I could say to you, you can develop chicanes, but there is risk, of course, with that, with normal traffic. So this is the lowest risk to normal population of everyday users, as well as those who venture into our municipalities for visitation for first time exposures. And the last, I believe it's the last slide after this one, please. And I'll talk a little bit about this one. This is the photo radar. Everybody's interested in photo radar. I have to be very careful with this because if you look at the true purpose, the objective of photo radar is absolutely to reduce speed. It does absolutely have its impact, but it is short-lived again, because what we're finding is as soon as you exit that area that is controlled by photo radar, they accelerate once they're on the side of that because they know they're no longer being photographed. So there's no longevity in that. Now there is, those are the costs. Those are current as of January of 2023. Our friends to the west in Durham are, and as well as Toronto, are increasing their photo radar. And you do have the capability, the regulations have been reduced, if you will, for municipalities such as ourselves. If you want to consider that, you do have the option, of course, of mobile devices that you can move around. Statistically, they pay for themselves from what I've heard after approximately 9 months, depending on the traffic flow that's going through that area. Now, if you're putting it into a tertiary or a secondary road where there's lower traffic flow, that would be challenged after a 9-month payment, of course, but it does have an effect. And I think I'm going to the last slide now. And there's a variety of research material there for you. Again, my sole purpose here today is just to highlight the areas. And again, we can't be dependent. And again, I love the OPP. I'm very pro police, obviously. I do have a bias with my background, and I'll be very open with that. But you can't rely on them. When I say can't rely on, you can't always have a police officer on the street looking at traffic 24 hours in sets. So we can start to look at different strategies aligned with that. I've got tons of research. If you need anything other than that, I've put the high flyers, if you will, that I enjoyed reading up there, and they're hyperlinked. If one of the hyperlinks are broken for yourself, please reach out to me through my email, and I'd be happy to come back out to you, meet you one-on-one, or have any phone calls after that. Thank you very much, Your Worship. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chris. Very good presentation. Just a second. And just so you're aware, our public works manager, Brian, building is on this.
Okay, very good.
So I think it'd be quite interesting.
Okay.
So before we go, can I give you a second? If I tell us any questions that I think there's over. Any questions? I just have one for you. When JPC was quoting your prices and everything else, if I understood that, right, they were saying yours is cost when you got another $1,000.
So those are yearly costs in regards to the photo radar, Your Worship? Yes, that's a yearly cost, and that is proprietary. The ownership is by the company. It's a third-party company, and that is their yearly cost in regards to almost like a lease agreement, if you will. That is the yearly cost that.
And then there's $100,000.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, very good. Anything
Yeah.
else? All in favor of
Excellent.
this report? Chris, thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Worship. Absolutely. Thank you very much again, Councilor.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 7, which is a motion to adjourn to the Finance Committee, Committee of Adjustment meeting. And be resolved the council of the township of Allen, meeting the Land Commission Committee or Committee of Adjustment adjourned to the Land Commission Committee. Committee of Adjustment meeting for the purpose of hearing consent application 6:45. And our first consent application is for Barbara Pottington. We got moved by Councilor, second by Deputy Mayor Silver, all in favor? Carried. And our first application is from Barbara Pottington. Not. AH-6-203, section 6, part of lot 22 geographically developed regarding creation of a new rural residential lot.
Smith, we were just saying that it's very hard to hear, so I guess we're gonna have to speak up at the mic.
Okay. Through you, Mayor Logal. This is application AH-06-2023 for a property located at 281 Webb Road in part of lot 22, concession 6, geographic Alnwick. The purpose of the application is for the creation of a new vacant rural residential lot. The new rural residential lot would have a lot area of approximately 0.53 hectares, and the retained lot would have an area of 0.99 hectares. So the 1.5 subject properties located on the south side of Webb Road in the northeast quadrant of the municipality. The properties developed with a single detached dwelling located in the northeast corner of the property. The existing dwelling is located, since the existing dwelling is located on the northeast corner of the property, it allows for a severance on the sort of western portion of the property. So I should have mentioned also that there's a single detached dwelling and a detached garage located on the property immediately west of the subject property. Surrounding land uses are predominantly agricultural properties with some scattered rural residential dwellings. There was a livestock barn identified at 339 Webb Road, and there are 2 other livestock barns identified in the area that are over 900 meters from the subject property. There's an off-site water course which was identified on the adjacent property, approximately 70 meters from the proposed severed lot. And the existing off-site dwelling and accessory garage are located between that water course and the proposed severed lot. So the property is designated rural in the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman official plan, and the provincial policy statement does allow for development of locally appropriate residential development in the rural in lands that are designated rural, provided they have they can provide the appropriate level of service. So in this case, they would need to be able to accommodate private water and septic services. Northumberland County Inspection Services have reviewed the application and confirmed that they didn't have any concerns with it. Compliance with minimum distance separation, which is the MDS calculations to ensure that new residential uses are located far enough away from existing livestock barns. An MDS calculation was prepared for the livestock barn located at 339 Webb Road, resulting in a 231 meter MDS setback. The proposed severed lot is located approximately 383 meters from the livestock barn, so outside of the required MDS setback. MDS calculations were not provided for the other 2 livestock barns because they're located more than 900 meters from the proposed severed lot. Lower Trent commented in their March 1st, 2023 comments. They noted that the existing mapping of the subject property shows a wetland on it. However, LTC staff conducted a site visit in September of 2022 and verified that the feature did not exist on the subject property. There is a potential off-site water course that's identified in mapping. However, because it's off-site, LTC staff could not attend that because you can't go onto somebody else's property. So its location, its presence was not verified by LTC. If it was determined to be real and in existence, then it would be considered a key hydrologic feature and we would require a hydrologic evaluation for a new lot within 120 meters. But because that lot is located 70 meters from the proposed severed lot, and there's a dwelling and a detached garage located between the hydrologic feature and the proposed severed lot, we've determined that a hydrologic evaluation was not required in this case. So the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. The subject property is not located on the Oak Ridges Moraine, and so the Oak Ridges Moraine Conservation Plan doesn't come into effect. The property is designated rural area in the county official plan, which allows for lot creation in accordance with township lot creation policies. As I mentioned earlier, the property is designated rural in the township's official plan, and the township's official plan does allow for set lot creation or severances in the rural designation, provided a number of criteria are met, which includes the MDS calculation, as we discussed with the section earlier regarding the PPS. Lots have to have frontage on a year-round municipally maintained road, and Webb Road is a year-round municipally maintained road. The manager of public works has commented that there's visibility for a suitable entrance at the property. And the lot is appropriate, the proposed severed lot is appropriately sized to provide the water and septic services. The official plan policies permit a maximum of 2 severances from a property as it existed in 1990, and there have been no previous severances from this property at that time. So the proposed severance complies with the policies set forth in the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman official plan. Now, the subject property is zoned rural in the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman official plan. And the rural zone permits a wide variety of uses, but it has a minimum lot area of 5 hectares. So there are properties throughout the municipality that are legal undersized lots, and that's not a problem. But now that we are creating a severance and the severed lot should be zoned rural residential, I'm suggesting that both the retained and the severed lots be rezoned rural residential, because the retained lot would be about 1 hectare. And the severed lot is 0.53 hectares. So that's the rural residential zone is a more appropriate zone for both properties. The application was circulated to Public Works, Northumberland County, Lower Trent Conservation, Alderville First Nation, and Bell Canada. Lower Trent had no objection. Northumberland County reviewed the application and confirmed that they had no objection. In this case, we didn't receive any comments from Alderville First Nation, and the manager of Public Works commented that a entrance would be available at a location to be determined by the manager of Public Works. Notice of the application was circulated to all registered landowners within 60 meters of the property on March the 7th, and a sign was posted on the property that same day. We have received 1 telephone call regarding the proposal. An adjacent property owner requested some additional details regarding the proposal, and they expressed some concern regarding drainage issues between the proposed severed lot and the developed lot to the west. Apparently, in the spring, the area between the 2 lots becomes quite wet with standing water, and they are concerned that the water not be forced onto the adjacent property with the addition of fill on the proposed severed lot. During that conversation, I explained that during the building permit process, any development within 30 meters of a property line, they're required to do a lot grading plan as part of the building permit application process, and they cannot water from one property cannot drain onto an adjacent property. So that would be addressed during the building permit process. They also expressed some concern regarding the size of a dwelling to be constructed on the property. However, I explained to them that the township doesn't regulate the size or style of a dwelling that's going onto a property, provided it complies with the zoning requirements and the Ontario Building Code, then a building permit would be issued. So there were no other public comments received. So the application, the proposed severed lots located in a rural area. It's consistent with the provincial plan or the provincial policy statement, the Northumberland County official plan, and the county or the township's official plan. It conforms with the policies of the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. And the recommendation is that the application be approved, subject to the conditions contained in the report.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any questions or comments from council? Deputy Mayor?
Through you, Mayor Lowell, I went out and seen the property today and met with the owners, and it has, as Brian has stated, it's got good lot lines. It would be there wouldn't be any problem with site hills or anything like that. There is a bit of a hill as you're going out, but it would be a good spot for a severance.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Greg.
Through you, your worship, to the planner, you were saying there was a concern about the drainage issue. So when they have that what do you call it? It's a grading plan done. Is that then inspected by our staff when they? Like, who goes out there to say, to look at the actual plan to say, yes, it's graded properly?
When the application is submitted, it's the lot grading plan has to be prepared by an OLS, an Ontario Land Surveyor, or a professional engineer. And it's done through the building permit stage. So Daryl would, when Daryl's on site, he's the one that's on site all the time to make sure. Now, that being said, if we had concerns that the lot wasn't graded in accordance with the lot grading plan, we may have to bring somebody in to confirm that it wasn't. I don't believe we've run into, as far as I know, we haven't run into a case where we've had to hire an engineer or a PNG, or sorry, an OLS to come in to confirm it. Usually what the grading plans for a lot will contain a swale between on the subject property to ensure that the water doesn't extend over onto the adjacent property. So the water catches in the swale and then drains away.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
You can ask.
Yeah. Would you care to make a comment regarding the application?
Oh, that was fine.
Okay, thank you. Sure. Okay, I'm going to read the recommendations as provided, and then we'll get a mover and a seconder, and we'll see how it goes. The application AH 062023 by Barbara Connington to sever a parcel of land for the creation of a new vacant rural residential lot in part of lot 22 concession 6 geographically in the township of Alnwick is hereby approved subject to the following conditions: that a registered survey for this severed parcel be submitted to the township. Further, to the printing of a plan of survey, a closed polygon vector file of the part boundaries shown on the reference plan to be provided in spatially referenced AutoCAD DWG Windows readable format to the satisfaction of the township. It is recommended that the applicant's Ontario Land Survey consult with the County of Northumberland GIS section to confirm acceptable standards and formatting. Number 3, that a draft transfer for the severed parcel be submitted to the township. Number 4, that the tax account for the subject property be paid up to date. Number 5, that a zoning bylaw amendment be in effect for the severed and retained parcels pursuant to the Planning Act. Number 6, that the $11,813.20 development charge for the severed lot be paid to the township of Alnwick Haldeman. And number 7, that the $1,500 cash in lieu of parkland fee be paid to the township of Alnwick Haldeman. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Deputy Mayor Silver, seconded by Councillor Booth. Further discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. We're going to move on next to Eugenia McGuire. AH 07-2023, concession 6, part lot 17, geographically in Alderman, regarding lot addition. And Jennifer, you have the floor.
Through you, Mayor Logo. This is an application AH 07-2023 for a lot addition that would add property to a developed property with the municipal address of 1224 County Road 22. The lot addition will add approximately 0.21 hectares to the recipient property, which is currently developed with a single detached dwelling. The centrally located 12.25 hectare properties located on the north side of County Road 2, east of Centerton. The vacant rural property has been used as a motocross course, which is no longer in operation. And the property is predominantly cleared, and the entrance to the motocross track is located on an unopened municipal road allowance. The proposed severed parcel is located immediately north of 1224 County Road 22, and there are no buildings on that portion of the subject property. The 0.9 hectare benefiting parcel, which is 1224 County Road 22, is developed with a single detached dwelling, detached garage, and accessory building. Surround uses along County Road 22 are predominantly rural residential uses, with the hamlet of Centerton located about 200 meters west of the subject property. And Centerton is a designated settlement area in our municipality. There were livestock barns identified at 155 Preddy Road and 1331 County Road. Oh, apologize. I wrote County Road 2. I believe that should be County Road 22. They're very different things. The property is designated Oak Ridges Marine Natural Core in the Township of Alnwick-Alderman official plan. Now, ordinarily, severances aren't permitted on the Oak Ridges Marine. However, this is a lot addition and no new developable lot is being created. So lot additions are permitted, provided you comply with generally the, excuse me, the rural policies in the official plan. The retained lot will have frontage on County Road 22, which is a year-round municipally maintained road. And as I mentioned earlier, the proposed severed lot doesn't have any frontage, but it will be added to a developed lot that does have frontage on County Road 22. The retained lot will also have frontage on an unopened road allowance to the immediate east. Now, compliance, no MDS calculations were prepared because no new developable lot was being created. We only prepare MDS calculations when there's a potential for a new incompatible land use. And in this case, there is no new incompatible land use. In their August 18th, 2022 comments, sorry, I got that date completely wrong, but I apologize. Lower Trent noted there are no natural heritage, natural hazard features, or water features of provincial concern on the subject property. So the application is consistent with both the provincial policy statement and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. And in this case, the property, as I mentioned earlier, is on the Oak Ridges Marine. However, no new lot is being created. So it's not inconsistent with the policies of the Oak Ridges Marine Conservation Plan. And the retained lot is still an appropriately sized rural lot. That's important. We don't want to make a retained lot so small that it wouldn't be appropriately sized for its intended use. Northumberland County official plan, county comments indicated that it was designated Oak Ridges Marine Natural Core area. That was actually incorrect because it's actually natural or countryside area, not natural core. So they went back and revised their comments, but I didn't get a revised letter. They commented that it generally conforms with the county official plan. Northumberland County did comment that they were wondering or recommending if a record of site condition was required because it was going from a commercial use to being added to a residential use. However, in reviewing the previous use of the property and the fact that the new property is developed, I determined that a record of site condition was not warranted at this point in time. The property is designated Oak Ridges Marine Natural Core. And a number of uses are permitted. Again, there's not going to be any change to this proposed, the proposed retained or the benefiting parcel. It's already developed with a single detached dwelling. They're just making it slightly larger with this lot addition. The property is zoned Oak Ridge's Marine Countryside, Oak Ridge's Marine Plan Review, and Oak Ridge's Marine Environmental. The proposed lot addition lands are in the countryside zone, and the benefiting parcel is also zoned in the countryside. So it's a zoning bylaw amendment won't be required because there will be consistency between the benefiting parcel and the severed parcel. Lower Trent Conservation had no concerns or objections. Northumberland County had no concerns or objections. They did recommend that a record of site condition be required, but I don't believe that that is appropriate in this case. And in further discussion with them, they realized that, well, technically, perhaps under the Ministry of the Environment guidelines, a record of site condition or further environmental work may be required. In this case, it didn't really make sense given the previous use on the property and the fact that the existing property is developed. So the application was circulated to all registered landowners within 60 meters of the property on March the 7th and a sign posted. We have received no public comment. So the proposed 0.21 hectare severed parcel will be added to a developed rural residential lot with frontage on County Road 22, which is a year-round municipally maintained road. The retained lot is appropriately sized for its intended use, and the application is complies with the policy set forth in the township's official plan. The county official plan is consistent with the provincial policy statement and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe and Oak Ridge's Marine Conservation Plan. So the recommendation is that the application be approved, subject to the conditions contained in the recommendations.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any questions or comments from council? Go ahead, Mike.
To you, Mayor Lobo. So just to clarify with me, this lot, obviously, like you say, it's an addition. So was that the last piece to the remainder part? Because I know the McGuire's own that whole section there where the racetrack is. So that little piece was just kind of sitting in there by another owner?
No, the McGuire's own both parcels of land, and they're taking a piece of the larger racetrack parcel and adding it to their smaller house parcel. So there will be the lot addition can only be conveyed to the benefiting parcel, which is 1224, I believe it is, County Road 22. It doesn't sit there as a separate entity. It's added to the benefiting parcel.
Okay, so that you kind of lead me into my second question. You might have already answered it. So because I thought if it's own lot, should we be going one step further? And because say they sell all that and that little lot sits there by itself and someone wants to build on it.
No, see, that's the conditions of consent. Condition 5 is that the severed parcel be deeded as a lot addition to the recipient parcel, and that the applicant's lawyer submit an undertaking to register a consolidation on title, giving effect to the lot addition. And number 6 is that the applicant's lawyer submits a legal opinion verifying that the lot addition lands will merge on title with the recipient parcel under the Planning Act. So that makes sure that it doesn't exist as a separate entity back there.
Okay, thank you.
John's just looking to cut some more grass, right? Any other further questions or comments? Mr. and Mrs. McGuire, would you have any comments regarding the application? Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Yeah, thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the people that are on Zoom? Hearing none, then we'll read off the recommendations. So I've got here. Okay, can I get a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor Ainsworth and second by Deputy Mayor Silver. And I'll read the recommendation. The application AH 072023 by Jean McGuire to sever a parcel of land for lot addition purposes in part of lot 17 concession 6 geographically in the township of Haldeman is hereby approved subject to the following conditions. 1, that a registered survey for the severed parcel be submitted to the township. 2, further to the printed plan of survey, a closed polygon vector file of the part boundaries shown on the reference plan to be provided in spatially referenced Autodesk DWG Windows readable format to the satisfaction of the township. It is recommended that the applicant's Ontario Land Surveyor consult with the County of Northumberland GIS section to confirm acceptable standards and formatting. Number 3, that a draft transfer to the severed parcel be submitted to the township. 4, that the tax account for the subject parcel property be paid up to date. 5, that the severed parcel be deemed as a lot addition to the recipient property and the applicant's lawyer submit an undertaking to register a consolidation on title, giving effect to the lot addition. And finally, 6, that the applicant's lawyer submit a legal opinion verifying that the lot addition land will merge on title with the recipient's parcel under the Planning Act. Further questions? All in favor? The motion's carried. Thank you. Have a good night. We're going to move on then to item 9, which is a motion to reconvene to the municipal planning meeting. Be it resolved that the council of the township of Allen-Calderon, being of the land division committee or committee of adjustments, reconvene to the municipal planning meeting at 7:14. Mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Booth and seconded by Deputy Mayor Silver. Any questions? All in favor? Motion's carried. Number 10, public meeting for zoning applications. David and Colleen Stewart, Z03 2023, bylaw 29 2023. Concession 2, part of lot 18, geographically in Haldeman. And I'll ask for mover and seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover and seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. Be it resolved that the application Z03 2023 to amend the zoning on parcels of land owned by David and Colleen Stewart, legally described as part of lot 18, concession 2, geographically in the township of Haldeman, from rule exception number 40 RU 40 and rule exception R number 31 RU 31, zone to rural and rural residential zones in the township of Allen-Calderon, zoning bylaw 19-2019 as amended be approved. And further, that a bylaw will be passed later this meeting. Okay.
Through your Mayor Logo, this is a public meeting, so for the zoning bylaw amendment.
Yep.
So I'll just give you a brief overview and we'll give anybody an opportunity to say anything if they'd like to, and then we can proceed. This is application Z03 2023, pertains to a property at 169 Boyle Road. This property was subject to a consent application that was approved by the Land Division Committee on January 27th of 2023. And with that application, they proposed the creation of a rural residential lot. The subject property is 10 hectares. And I believe that the severed parcel that they created was about a 1 acre or 0.4 hectare severed parcel. The application, the consent application, and this associated zoning bylaw amendment application, they're consistent with the township's official plan, the provincial policy statement, the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. The property is not located on the Oak Ridges Moraine, so the Oak Ridges Moraine plan does not apply to this application. It's consistent with the county official plan. The county did note that they had adopted official plan amendment number 1, which created a natural heritage system for the county, and portion of these lands are located within that heritage system. However, that OPA has not yet come into force and effect because it is currently at the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing for approval. So the application conforms to the intent of the county official plan. Okay, so the recommendation is that the property be rezoned, the severed lot be rezoned to the rural residential zone and the remainder of the property be rezoned to the rural zone. Right now, there's a few different rural exception zones on the retained parcel, and we're just going to clean that up with a straight rural zone on it. There was public notice was given and circulated to all landowners within 120 meters of the property on March 7th. After this report was prepared, I did receive a phone call from an adjacent property owner, just inquiring as to some details regarding the application. They didn't have any concerns. They just wanted to know what was happening. So that was the only public comment that I have received. So the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement, the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoes, the Oak Ridges Marine Conservation Plan, and maintains the intent of the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman official plan. So the recommendation is that it be approved. And I know that Mr. Stewart is here today if he would like to say anything. You don't have to, but if you would like to say anything, you can. If you would like to say anything, you don't have to.
Does council have any comments? Okay, I'll read them. I'll read the oh, yeah. And we're looking for a comment from anybody that's on Zoom. Seeing none. I'll read the motion. Be it resolved that application Z03-2023 to amend the zoning on parcels of land owned by David and Colleen Stewart, legally described as part of Lot 18, Concession 2, geographically in the Township of Haldeman, from rural exemption number 40 and rural exemption number 31 zone to rural and rural residential zones in the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman, zoning bylaw 19/2019 as amended be approved, and further that a bylaw will be passed later this meeting. All in favor? Motion is carried. Next, we're going to move on to 11 communications. First one is correspondence received from the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks dated March 10th, 2023 regarding environmental assessment EA modernization update. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Ainsworth, seconded by Councillor Booth. Any discussion? Go ahead. You want to make a comment?
I'm just going to make a comment because I received an email from Councillor O'Neill. I'm not sure if did the rest of council receive an email from her. She posed a couple of questions. Her questions were, do you feel that there needs to be any research regarding the impact of these changes to the EA for our township? And then the next two questions, she has two other questions, but they don't pertain to this issue at all. So she did raise that question regarding the EA process.
I guess I'll comment on that. I had a question too, but it's just so big as compared to the work that we're doing in the township. Like I think they were going to, what I recall seeing it, if the roadway, 4-lane highway was more than 75 kilometers or less than 75 kilometers, then you wouldn't have to do a comprehensive zone. Or pardon me, a comprehensive EA. Which is a little bit different before, and I assume that you would have to have done it before, but now they're saying you don't have to do that. Well, I don't see in the nearby future our 4-lane highways going to more than 75 kilometers. That's my only comment to it. So I think it's important for this province, but probably doesn't really affect us. Any further comments? Yes, I did. Okay, so be it resolved that the correspondence received from the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks dated March 10th, 2023 regarding the environmental assessment modernization update be received and filed. All in favor? Motion's carried. Next one is correspondence received from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry dated March 17th, 2023 regarding proposal updates, amendments to the Ontario Regulation 161/17. Mover and seconder for that one. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover and seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. Discussions on that? Seeing none, I'll make a comment. Does anybody look up and see what groin means on there? Because I didn't know what the heck a groin was. It is a low wall or sturdy barrier built out into the sea from the beach to check erosion and drafting, drifting, pardon me. So there's your something new for today.
There's the word for the day.
Huh?
There's
That's the word for today, because I didn't know what it was. Okay, I'll read the motion then. Be resolved that the correspondence received from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry dated March 17, 2023 regarding proposed update amendments to Ontario Regulation 161/17 be received and filed. All in favor? That's carried. The next one is correspondence received from AMCTO dated March 22nd, 2023 regarding advocacy update for municipals reporting and regulations and AODA review. Did I get a mover and seconder for that one? Councillor Booth, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. Comments?
Through you, Mayor Local, Councillor O'Neill said AMCTO ? Who are members in AH and does reporting apply to AH?
Go ahead, Pat.
So the AMCTO members would be myself, the deputy clerk, Alex is planning assistant, and I'm not sure if our CAO is or not, and I believe maybe Nicole is the treasurer.
Okay.
With respect to the reporting in this one, I think I looked it up and this reporting regarding the housing and planning, or sorry, it has to do with planning reporting on applications. I think it said it applied to the largest 28 or 29 municipalities. So I don't think we are one of the largest 28 or 29 municipalities in the province, so it does not yet apply to us.
Yep. I see that too. Okay, anybody else have further comments? What about the, and I've got a question, does this include the report from them regarding the Municipal Accessibility Advisory Committee? I found that at the bottom of the sheet. And there was concerns about the 2025 because those standards are all going to be changed by the end of 2025. And the fellow was saying that, as I recall, that small municipalities are going to have a very difficult time getting there.
So yes, municipalities now are required to file a report every 2 years. So in 2024, because I filed one last year. No, yes, we'll be filing another report. So there are changes coming to the ODA and it will affect small municipalities.
Okay, okay, we'll be able to meet do we have a committee?
No, we don't have a committee.
Okay.
We had, a report was done years ago, and what we do now is we take that report, it gets reviewed by the chief building official, the CAO, and myself as the clerk. And I'm the one that fills out the form that goes back into the government every 2 years.
Okay. And we're doing what we need to do. I'm sure we are. You're saying we are, then I'm sure we are.
Yeah, and if council will recall, we did ask to have money set aside in the 2023 budget for an accessibility study. At this time, it's just this municipal office that's going to be undertaken. And if you recall too, council had suggested that our own staff do the majority of
Okay.
the work.
Yep.
So,
Thank you, Pat. Any other further comments? All in favor? Motion's carried. Next, we're going into number 12, bylaws. Bylaw number 29, 2023, being a bylaw to amend the comprehensive zoning bylaw number 19-2019 as amended of the Township of Alnwick Haldeman for David and Colleen Stewart, concession 2, part of lot 18, geographically in Haldeman. Mover and a seconder. Councilor, moved by Councilor Booth, second by Councilor Ainsworth. Be it resolved that the bylaw number 29, 2023, being a bylaw to amend the comprehensive zoning bylaw number 19, 2019, as amended of the Township of Alnwick Haldeman for David and Colleen Stewart, concession 2, part lot 18, geographically in Haldeman, be read and deemed to be approved this 28th day of March 2023. Questions? All in favor? Motion's carried. Next, we have bylaw number 33, 2023, being a bylaw to declare that a portion of a highway, street, or walkway is assumed for public use in the Township of Alnwick Haldeman, legally described as part of lot 8 and 9, concession 4, being lot 1-25, Parkview Drive and Hampton Crescent on plan 39M 799, Township of Alnwick Haldeman, formerly in the Township of Alnwick. Mover and seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councilor Ainsworth. Any discussions? Deputy Mayor Stover.
Did you?
I just, I have on Mary Catherine's email, she had her request for third point on her email was, are there any concerns about the road width for Parkview or Hampton Crescent? And the answer to that is no, they were designed in accordance with the engineering drawings. So that was all I had for Mary Catherine.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Stover.
I sent an email out today. I went out and looked at the road today. And I just want to know what class the road was. And I believe Brian is on there.
Yep. Brian, do you want?
And I wanted to know about the maintenance, if we had been doing the maintenance all along as far as sweeping and all this. And we are.
Brian, you
and-
want to comment?
The other
Okay,
question, the only other one I had was, I didn't know the life of the road, because it was 2010, Jennifer, through you, 2010, 2012 and around there. So I kind of wondered the life of the road. I mean, it is cracked in spots, but so are some of the roads down this way. So I just wondered if there was some a view out there of how long this road's going to be before it needs to be resurfaced.
Brian, go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mayor Logal. Good evening, council. Yes, Deputy Mayor Stover. The road is paved, and I think you are correct. Jennifer may be able to verify, but I believe it was 2010. And I think we've actually been doing the maintenance and plowing since about 2012, so about 11 years now. There is some minor cracking on the road, so eventually there'll be need to be some crack sealing on the road, like some of the other asphalt roads we have in the township. And then down the road, we might do a micro resurfacing across the top of it, similar to what you see the county doing a lot of their roads, like it was done on County Road 23 last year, up from Grafton up towards Boyle Road and that. But again, it is paved, so the life, we should get at least 30 years out of that asphalt road before there is any maintenance done to the road. There is we have been doing the plowing. We have been doing the street sweeping, cleaning up the winter sand, cleaning out any culverts if there's anything frozen. But yeah, I'm happy or would recommend the township, yeah, that we do pass the bylaw to assume it into the road network of the township. And it would be the other question, I think Councillor or Deputy Mayor Stover asked, it would most likely be a class 5 roadway.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. You know, we're speaking to sealant, sealing the cracks.
Yep.
I don't think the township has done much of that before. I guess basically because we haven't got paved roads, but you want to comment on that?
Yeah, that is correct. We don't have a lot of paved roads, but that is a necessary maintenance performer moving forward. Again, the worst thing you can have from road is cracks in it and water getting in it and getting the freeze melt in your roads, and that makes wider cracks. So we will be starting to, review these roads, the paved roads, and do crack sealing. Like you'll see the county does a fair number of roads all the year. You'll see their contractors out doing roads, doing crack sealing before they do any maintenance on top of it. So that would happen in the future on Parkview Crescent, Hampton Crescent, before it was had a micro put on top of it.
Okay. And I guess it kind of reminds me, just bringing this whole discussion up with asset management and getting the most out of the roads that we possibly can before you have to replace them. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, you are correct. Mayor Logal is, you'll see it in your next council report in my department, not departmental update, but in our capital projects for 2023. We are trying to do more and more resurfacing, like putting a top layer of surface treatment on our roads to extend the life of them before they do get to the point where you can't even put a band-aid on. You got to basically let the road fall apart and then rebuild the whole thing. But then you're looking at almost 3 to 4 times the cost of your maintenance per kilometer to do full reconstruction. So it is very important that we have a well forecasted maintenance program for our roads.
Okay. And I got to ask this, is the sealant in this year's budget, or can we afford to go for another year?
No, again, no, like I said, the micro resurfacing is when the road is starting to getting really bad. There is some minor cracking up there now. But I wouldn't have crack sealing in the forecast for this year. It might be something for 2024 or 2025.
And you do the sealant before you do the micro surfacing? Or it doesn't have to be done together?
You do the crack sealing usually ahead of time. It's if you can do it 2 to 3 months prior to doing your a top layer on top, that's recommended.
Okay, so you don't do it crack 1 year and 3 or 4 years later do the micro?
No, if you're getting to the crack sealing and stuff like that, I wouldn't go longer than a year before that you do the micro on it.
Okay, thank you. Any other question? Oh, go ahead, Councillor Booth.
Through you, your worship, to probably one for you, Brian, and then maybe Jennifer can answer
Yep.
the other one.
Sure.
Hampton Crescent or Road, I see, does the snowplow turn around there when it gets to lot 15? Because we're only looking, we're not going around the corner, right? So I looked on Google Map. I'm just wondering, does the snowplow go around and back up, or does he turn around? Is there a turnaround there for him?
There's a turnaround at both ends. At the top, when you go up the top of Parkview and you make a right on Hampton Crescent, we got the turnaround there, the full cul-de-sac, and there's room enough down at the other end where it's moving into the second phase, I believe you're talking about. There is not a full turnaround, but there is enough room for the emergency equipment to get turned around and come back out.
Okay, thank you. And I guess the second one, maybe Jennifer can answer, or maybe you, Brian, is who looks after the rest of Hampton then? Is that a private road looked after by them and they do their own maintenance on there?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's a private road and there's probably 10 or 12 residents or cottages or whatever on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Further questions? I'll read the bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw number 33, 2023, being a bylaw declared that a portion of a highway, street, or walkway is assumed for public use in the township of Alma-Calderman, legally described as part lot 8 and 9, concession 4, being lots 1 through to 25 Parkview Drive and Hampton Crescent on Plan 39M 799 Township of Allenwick, Haldeman, formerly Township of Allenwick, be read and deemed to be passed this 28th day of March 2023. All in favor? Motion's carried. Next we have planning reports, report from Jennifer Current, Senior Planner regarding severance status report. Do you want to make a comment to that, Jennifer?
No, as requested by council, I went through and did a review of the past 10 years, lots that were created by severance, and to find out how many are currently vacant and eligible for building permits. So that's what that was.
Okay. I'll make I'll read the motion. Be resolved, the report that Jennifer Current, Senior Planner regarding severance status report be received for information purposes. Does anybody have any questions or comments, Jennifer? Go ahead, Greg.
So if I'm just reading this right, then Jennifer, it was 150 new vacant lots were created and we have 48, so roughly 1/3 that are still vacant that haven't done anything with them.
Yes, that would be correct.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I'm reading it right.
Anybody else? You can, but just someone's going to have to, in order for you to do that, I have to get permission from members of council for the public. Okay, moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. All in favor? You can go ahead, Dave.
I was under the impression that severance is given. We were saying that there are 150 you're given, but there are 48 still that haven't been worked on. But I thought that these 7 lots were on the clock 2 years. Otherwise, they are no longer viable.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Logo. No, Mr. Stewart, that's, you have 2 years to finalize your severance to satisfy your conditions of consent. And once those conditions have been satisfied and I issue the certificate of official and your lawyer registers the new lot, it's final. It won't go away anymore. Correct. Yep. So once you finalize your severance, you've satisfied all those conditions. And once you finalize it and your lawyer registers it and it's a new lot, there's no timeline for you to build on it or for you to sell it or anything.
Okay, you're welcome.
Mayor Logal, I just had one observant. Through you, Mayor Logal, is the created and finalized lots for 2022 were 4. And I guess working on yet not finalized are 20. So we really are seeing a decline other than plan of subdivisions. Is that
No,
right, or am I reading
no,
this?
because actually in 2022, 24 lots were created,
Okay.
but only 4 of them have been finalized.
Have gone.
But
through
there's
the-
20 more where they're working, they have 2 years to fulfill
Okay.
their conditions of consent. So they'll be working on finalizing their conditions of consent. So actually there were 24 of them created in 2022.
It was a busy year then.
Yeah, like the one we talked about the very first, there were 6 or 7 recommendations or conditions that have to be approved until he does them all. And that's what he has the 2 years to do. Correct? Thank you. Okay, we had a motion, all in favor? Oh, we don't have a mover in a second for Jennifer's report. I'm sorry, we do not. Can I get a mover in a second for this report then? Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover and seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. All in favor? Motion's carried. Announcements and notices of motion. I'm not sure if it's planning related or not. Do they have to be planning related? Well, I'm gonna use a little bit of judgment here because I think we've got a few minutes of time. I just wanted to comment that, 3 members of council went to the, Chamber of Commerce, West Chamber of pardon me, Central Chamber of Commerce. Function on Friday night. It was very well attended. I enjoyed myself, and I just thought I'd let you know that the De Jong family were well recognized for their winning the Crossan Award, which I thought was very good. And the other thing that tying on with that, I would like to, I think at one time we had made a motion to spend roughly $200 for Joan and I to attend that, but we ended up putting an advertisement in the brochure that they passed out that was for $1,000. So and we actually did that. So I just want to make sure that council is aware of that. And I guess I should get a motion that we do that as well, shouldn't I? Okay. So can I get a mover just that we could spend that $1,000?
What not we just did.
That we did, yeah. Moved by Councilor Ainsworth, second by Deputy Mayor Stover. All in favor?
One question.
Yeah.
So what budget does that come out of then? Is that coming out of the council budget, or does that count? Just so I can track it to see.
Yes.
I
Oh,
don't
I
think it
don't know.
was.
So we have nothing in the contingency anymore. In fact, we're negative then.
No.
No?
No?
I'll look it up.
Okay.
There was money in what I.
Okay. And I'm fine with spending it. It's just that it's got to come out of somewhere. So, but we'll double check the contingency because I think we only had $450 left.
No, I believe it's the one where, in case you get requests for grants during the year that haven't been allocated. So there was sufficient funds to take it out of, but I'll get the
Yeah,
code for you.
Because we've
next
spent
week.
twice out of that now. We already took something out of that this year.
Well, we talked about going under for the Legion, but I don't think we did that.
No, there was something else. I can't remember what it
I
was, but
thought we already spoke about doing this, I thought,
Yeah, yeah.
2 meetings ago, did
Yeah.
we not?
But we didn't have officially.
We didn't have. an
Oh,
official-
we didn't officially do it.
which is fine. I know you'll come back to me with where you're taking it from. Thank you.
And I would like to mention the other 2 quick things I'll mention.
No.
Oh, yes, I did. All in favor?
Oh,
Motion's carried. The other 2 things I'll mention real quickly, last week was a real training week for me. I attended the fire marshal training that was on Zoom, and there was an awful lot that I was there to learn, and I appreciated the time, and I learned an awful lot. So I think it was good. And the other one was we've completed the water training as well for municipal water and control of wells, and we're going to have to make a decision in the future as to how that's going to affect the way we run the business, I guess. And that's all I have. Deputy Mayor Stover.
to you, Mayor Logal, I have a notice of motion. And I'll file it today, Tuesday, March 28th, 2023. It's under the agenda heading. The subject is Bridgman severance. And this has to do with the severance that appears in the planning minutes of February. Got that date.
20,
Was it
20, or you mean
23rd, February 23rd?
this year?
And what I'd like to do is bring it back. And so the motion will read to bring it back, the Keith Bridgman AH-01-/2020 concession 4, part of lot 18 geographic land mass of Alnwick. And the purpose is to bring forward for council to vote to approve or deny this application.
Okay.
So I need a, I guess I'm moving it. I need a seconder.
I don't think you do. That's a motion.
Do I need a seconder? Oh,
No.
thank you.
You just have to make sure you pass that on to the proper authorities so they can. Anything else, Deputy Mayor?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Ainsworth,
Nothing at this time.
thank you. Councillor Booth, okay. Guess that's a shot. Councillor O'Neill. Okay, moving on to number 15, approval of the confirming law bylaw number 34, 2023, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the municipal planning meeting of Thursday, March 28th, 2023. Tuesday, I keep thinking Thursday. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. I'll read the motion. Be it resolved that bylaw number 34, 2023, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the municipal planning meeting of Tuesday, March 28, 2023, be read and deemed to be approved this 28th day of March 2023. All in favor? Gary. Okay. All right, and adjournment, motion to adjourn, be resolved, the municipal planning meeting be adjourned at 7:49. Moving to seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thanks for everybody at zooming in.